Marques Phillips is in studio. Good morning, Marcus.
What's up, Bill?
And you can't see him on camera if you're watching on TV, but Kid Chris, Chris Foley from where are you? Where did you grow up, Chris? Just yell. Chittenango, the home of the Munchkins.
Ozfest.
Yeah. Chris is doing mornings in Cincinnati, and he's in town.
We had an angry Munchkin call up the other day because he was being forgotten about in the Ozfest.
Yeah, they said that all the Munchkins were dead, and they're not.
If I can just say, I thought the call we got was outstanding.
It was a good call.
Sometimes we get some calls that are a little out there, but I thought we had a great call.
It was a really good call. That's a compliment, Andrew. Take the compliment.
My left hand was in the shot.
You can say it.
So here's one more little piece, though. I have to bring this up because sometimes things happen during the breaks and you don't get to hear them, and it just burns me up that we didn't tape when we had former television personality in the area, Donna Adamo, in studio, and Andrew got into an actual argument with her over Trump. It got heated.
No,
it was heated. You put your stuff down and walked out of the room.
Okay,
I may have placed the headphones down in a forceful manner.
You threw them.
Now,
even Manaski put his hand up.
Yeah, I felt like we were going in a dangerous zone, and I don't think you should lose it when someone is negative on Trump. I think you back yourself up, but
I don't ever lose it on Bill every day.
I'm not negative on Trump. I can't believe you'd say that. I think I tolerate a lot.
Andrew and I talked about
I don't
this.
go anti-Trump every day. I don't. And if I did, I would beat you up far worse than she did. I'm just telling you.
Andrew felt like you were, how do I want to say this? You created an accident and then pulled off on the side of the road and said, I want to see an accident. Watch the accident happen.
So he's saying I fan the flames?
Yes.
You didn't just fan him. You got one of those things that looks like an accordion.
You showed up with gasoline and matches.
No. I had no idea how she felt on Trump. So I asked her, where are you on Trump? I think it's a question that everybody asks today. And I didn't realize she was so vehemently against Trump. And but she's saying, where I stepped in, this was not fanning the flames. I wasn't. I know you think I did. But when she said, are people so stupid they can't see this? I felt bad that Andrew was sitting there and you would have been insulted that maybe she said you were stupid. So I said, you should know Andrew's he's a big Trump supporter.
And then she basically called me stupid to my face.
Well, that's true, but I didn't fan that. I didn't fan that flame. All I did, I wanted her to know that you were sitting here and the conversation was getting a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I owe Bill a lunch because he bet me that he could make Andrew throw a hissy fit. He recorded the whole thing. It's on YouTube. If you search for the right thing.
It's actually
is on YouTube.
Yeah. Good morning, Marques Phillips.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Now you know if you want to have a memorable moment on the show, just get Andrew going.
Yeah, just call him stupid. And we can
That'll
go.
work.
I'm sure I've done it. I don't.
So talk about the story over the weekend on Cornhill. By the way, this recommendation of having you on comes via Stefan Rubitsky, who reached out to me and said, there's a story about Cornhill. Marcus is in the story. You should have him on and talk about Cornhill.
Rubitsky or Tubitsky?
Rubitsky, yeah.
Well, he still owes me for getting me arrested for robbing a bank.
Okay, let's tell that story.
So,
this is unbelievable. This story is real, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah, so...
How long ago?
Oh, God, it had to be 10 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, how did I never hear this story?
Yeah, no, I worked at, I think RCIL at the time.
I thought you were the OD.
Maybe at the OD. And I was going to Bank of America, used to be Bank of America, downtown on Genesee Street, and I was going there to cash my check. And when I'm there, Stefan asked the bank teller, he's give me all your money. But if you know Stefan, I didn't
give me all your money.
Yeah, I didn't take it too seriously, and he was laughing. He was laughing. So I'm like, well, that kid's crazy. Can you cash my check? And so they cashed my check, and I got moving on. I had forgot about Stefan, and the SWAT team was coming in the back door when I was leaving. First, I saw him in the front door, right? Gosh. And I'm like, oh, they must have called the police on Stefan, So I just took a left. You know, and I was going out the back while they were coming to the front. And then another group of police come up the back. They're like, get on the effing ground. I'm like, Stephen, get on the ground. You know?
Listen to him.
Yeah, what are you doing? We gonna die in here. You know? And then I'm like, oh, me? Oh, I got to get on the ground. So I got on the ground, and they all like put their
the only black guy in the bank, by the way.
Usually that's how it happens. I'm just saying. And then I'm on the ground and I'm laying on the stairs. So I'm like laying vertical. I'm afraid I'm going to slip into one of their foot and they're going to blow my brains out. I'm like, look, I don't know what to, you know, I worked at the OD, you know, I made $42 for 2 weeks, you know, and I'm on the ground. I'm like, look, all I got is, you know, the money I came from my check with my hand. Shut up. You know, and they're cuffing me up and stuff. Meanwhile, the whole time, Steph is standing up there laughing. I'm like, there's the bank robber.
So what happened to the teller? You know,
Go get
did
him.
she miss the idea of like, no, you have the wrong guy. He's over here. He's
Isn't
over
that
here.
unbelievable?
Well, eventually, I think they sorted it all out.
Oh my god.
Well, clearly they did.
But it took them longer than I thought to sort it out. And then they try to get me to admit that I put Stephen up to it.
Really?
Yeah, no. So I'm in the interrogation room, and they're like, "Hey, did you have any interaction with him? You know, we got it on tape. Did you tell him? You know?" And I'm like, "Listen, I'm not a mastermind by any means, but if I had to pick a bank robbing stooge, Stephen wouldn't be my first. You know, like I might have went through a couple other options first. You know, I am." You know, from a place where I know some people that do things like that. I could have got one of them.
Did you say, have you talked to Bill Keeler?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was normally blamed for everything that.
Yeah, it was Bill's fault.
Yeah.
But, so Stephen got me arrested for robbing a bank. So
Well,
the
there we
story
go.
about Cornhill.
Yes, that's what we were originally talking about.
Well, today, if you read the OD, there's a story about racism, and what happened is I had called one of the OD's editor, because I'm from there, I know him as I'm wont to do, and complained about something that they did, and just talk about life. We both like the Yankees, and you know, then the conversation turned into to race, and it'd be good for you to talk to our reporter. He's working on this story, and at first, what they tried to get me to talk about is, well, look, there's not a lot of black representatives, you know, a lot of what's in the story today, and politicians, and you know, why aren't there more black people participating in the system, and why are success rates lower in this place? And what I told them is just what I believe. I said, look, it's not really a place, you know, Cornhill or where most black people are from, some parts of East and West Utica aren't really places that are really set up for success. And they're supposed to be ghettos. They're created to be ghettos. And if you get out of there, if you do well, the incentive is just to get out of there.
Yeah,
That's what people tell you to do. And he said, what do you mean they're set up to be ghettos? You know, well, you look at my house, you know, 6 blocks radius of my house, you know, 30 to 40% of the people that live there are from homeless shelters, parole release programs, drug rehab centers, affordable housing, battered women's shelters. You know, that's 30 to 40% of the people. If we all got rich tomorrow, they would have to kick 30, 40% of us out and put another 30, 40% of high needs populations in. So it's going to be what it is. I mean, there's not much room there to grow into a prosperous community. And I asked them, how many people in your neighborhood are parole release program people? How many people in your neighborhood are from homeless and rehab shelters? It's 0, right? So my kid goes to school with 25 kids in her class. You know, 10 to 12 of them come from these types of places. You have 0. And then when they both get to 7th grade, you think they're going to be the same in math?
Right.
You know, and once they get out, they do. He goes, well, what do we do to change it? I said, you know, because I was talking about racism.
So you're saying that the area doesn't change.
No.
What happens is you might get out. You might get out and move to a better place, but the place you came from is always going to be the same.
Right, unless something really drastic happens. But I mean, people aren't really kind of ready for that kind of sacrifice. You know, what if we all had 5%, right? That would change the lives of the 5%, and that would change our lives. But people don't want that. Right. So,
well, you'll find this does happen when. So there's I remember I've covered this story maybe 5 times in 5 different municipalities where they've decided they're going to be opening up a group home.
Right.
For whatever. And that becomes there are protests over it. People go to the town meetings. We don't want that in our neighborhood. We all want it somewhere else, right?
So we've just decided, to me, as a society, right, in this community especially, but in
Syracuse
society
as well. There's a lot of talk about this in Syracuse.
As a whole, we've just decided that, look, we're going to make one or two places take all of the undesirable things in the society. Maybe it's 5 neighborhoods, right? And there's 41 municipalities in the county, right? We're going to take these 5 neighborhoods, make them take all the things we don't want, right? And then blame them when they're not the same as our community.
Right.
And look, we'd rather drive around it than have to deal with it, which is cool. Like, I think we've made that trade-off, and that's the way life is. But I think it's rich to then come back to the neighborhood and say, "What's wrong with you?"
Right. When your daughter, so your daughter went off to college,
right?
Did she follow in your Buffalo footsteps, or
no? My daughter's at the University of California, San Diego.
Wow.
She is a pitcher and a biochemistry major, and she lives on the ocean, and she feeds sea lions every Tuesday.
What's the message? That is really cool.
Yeah.
What is the message that you gave to her? Did you say
just like Cornhill, right?
Did you say get out? Yeah. Did you say what did you say?
First of all, she didn't go to school in the district, right? Because I didn't want to put her in with that 30-40%. So she went in the Utica City School District, but she went to Jefferson, which is in North Utica, and I turned out all right. Look, I come from a good family. I chose to stay in Cornhill. I like Cornhill. I live more in Cornhill now than I did growing up.
Yeah.
But there's individual success is possible, and I don't let my daughter make excuses. But the neighborhood's not going to change, And we trained her, but when it came time to go, frankly, when you put athletics and the environment together, there was just nowhere around her here that could offer her the same thing with academics. She wants to study biochemistry. And I told her, look, where we're from and who we are, you're never going to have another chance in life to live in a place like La Jolla, California.
Yeah.
You're never going to be on the coast and meeting engineers and working and going to school with kids of parents who are the vice president of Qualcomm and Uber, and So take advantage of it now for this 4 years. I'll put myself in debt. They can staple it to my credit report, but you have a good life.
And they will. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Pretty awesome. What opportunities she has. I want to ask you. We keep hearing since the immigration, so refugees coming in, Bosnian in particular. Since the Bosnians were placed in East Utica and in parts of Cornhill, people say the neighborhood has improved tremendously. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I've heard you talk about this on your show, and
am I talking about something I don't know anything about?
No. I mean, we get all these refugees, and I always like to point out most of the Bosnians we have here are Muslims, right? Because we hear a lot about Muslims nowadays. And no, they integrated pretty well. I mean, everybody makes it seem like Utica was this great metropolis before the refugees came, and they're dragging the place down. But in reality, Utica really had no choice. They're losing population, and they're losing it to such an extent that they're losing state funding, right? For their schools, for CDBG funding.
They could not go down below 50,000.
Yeah, we just couldn't do it because we wouldn't be able to sustain ourselves as a community. So they had to bring the refugees here, and if it weren't for the refugees, I mean, we'd be looking at like a Flint, Michigan situation.
Right.
And so they came, and the Bosnian refugees are misunderstood because it was a first world country.
Correct.
And they were educated, middle class people.
You had people who were judges,
right?
In their country, coming here pushing a broom,
right. And so what happened was, if me or you go to a different country, we're still going to be us, just in a different country.
Yep.
They had a war, right? They were persecuted because of their religion, so the Muslims came here, but that's different than like a refugee from Burma, right? This is a middle class place that got. Took out. So the Bosnians are...
Well, in some cases, some of the refugees that are coming here have never had running water.
Right.
And that is not the Bosnian population.
That's not the Bosnian population. Yep. So it's just at the right time during those wars in the Balkans. We did. I mean, with the Bosnians, we got a group of people that weren't used to living in a ghetto and did their best to make it like the neighborhoods they grew up in. and you know they had moderate success. Even the housing projects and the stuff that I'm talking about, they added new housing stock. They make the neighborhood look better in some places, and that's the trade-off. It is a double.
Somehow they
sword.
brought the trade of stucco to the area.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable how all of a sudden all of these buildings are, and it's changed the face of a lot of, not just in Utica, but even in New Hartford. You see,
it's really weird because in America, when we see like the concrete homes or the stucco homes, they're in like California. They're ranch-style homes.
Yeah.
They're like one floors. You know, there's houses with gables and stucco. I still have to get used to that.
I know.
In
Cornhill.
Yeah, some of it's pink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got to get used to that. But
It's funny you say that. I grew up in East Utica, Bacon Street, just below Bleecker, actually right around the corner from the St. Anthony's, St. Agnes co-church there. But yeah, it's a lot of Bosnians moved into the neighborhood, cleaned it up because a lot of it was deteriorating, and a lot of it is stucco. And it's funny. There's a little corner store on Bacon and Bleecker, and I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's like a peach-pink combination, but it's exactly the color scheme you're talking about.
And some of that bad element that is no longer tolerated has moved to West Utica, hasn't it?
Yeah, and that's that. You know, that's the thing. Like, West Utica is one of those other 5 places, right, where you're going to get it. And look, they're building projects now to bring in more people, you know, that, okay, we don't, because when you get a convict, right, a lot of landlords don't rent to them. They don't know where to put them. So they figure, well, Cornhill, West Utica, ideal place. They'll be right in their element. But, you know, if you live there, you're like, how much can we take?
Yeah. Brian is on the line, wants to talk about Cornhill. Brian, you're on the radio.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to talk about that designated areas. You know, I've thought a lot about this. I'm not a sociologist, but I've thought a lot about this. Because I lived in the city a long time ago, and I started out in West Utica, and I don't think there's any designated areas. I've watched the progression of areas go from good to bad.
Yeah.
I went to Utica Free Academy, and I used to be able to ride my bike when I was a young guy down on James Street, all those areas down there.
Yep.
And it used to be tremendous. A lot of good families down around UFA. West Utica was Polish families. Where I grew up in West Utica was a great place. So I think it's wrong for you to say that they're designated areas, because what has done has been urban blight. What it does is it started out in one particular area, and it's migrated all through the cities. Now, I think personally, the biggest thing what happened to this was economic problems, because there was a time when you lived in the city of Utica, there was no way that you were ever going to afford a home in the outlying areas, because there were really, really, really good paying jobs here.
Right.
There were engineers, huge dollar jobs. Now, what happened was those jobs left. So the outlying areas, the prices of property came down. So what you were able to do is, if you didn't want to live in Utica anymore, you said, you know what, I'm going to do what I can to get out of Utica.
Yeah.
Because Utica is turning, it's not the greatest place. I'd like to live outside. So what happened is you had this huge exit to the outlying areas. What happens, you had a ton of homes left in the Utica area. So what would happen is you'd want to rent, or you'd have these properties and you'd want to do something with your houses. And he said, well, let me try to rent. So what you would do is you'd have these people systematically moving about around the city, and they've destroyed the inner city as a result of having property that's readily available at low rent. And when they destroy one neighborhood, and the people in that neighborhood realize that, hey, listen, these people are bad, I'm not renting to them anymore, they go
somewhere else.
Unsuspecting individual, and they go, listen, I'd like to rent your home. So they move there. These people don't know what's going on, so they move them in.
Yep.
And before you know it, the neighborhood is destroyed.
It's another neighborhood.
So
I
don't agree with you that you say that these areas are set up. That's totally wrong.
All right.
I've watched it. I have watched it.
All right, Brian. Thanks. I about a minute left. I want Marcus to comment on that.
So there's a lot to unpack.
Yep.
The first thing I want to say is, people always say, well, I lived in a time where it was better and stuff. I want everybody to know crime rates are down. High school graduations are up. The world moves on. You can still ride your bike in Cornhill, right? That's number one. But number two, people did move to the suburbs and property values went up there, but that had a lot to do with federal housing policy and that they would insure houses there and not inside of the. So a lot of that was by design. They invested in the roads, the sewers, the home mortgages in the suburbs. They wanted wealthier people to move out there, and they concentrated it and made money off the rent in the inner city. That's number two. Number three, you still have to reconcile with the fact that 30 to 40% of the places are instituted places where there's homeless shelters. I mean,
and whether what Brian's saying, whether that is what caused the problems in Cornhill, or it's just, but it is where we are today.
It is what it is.
There's a lot of institutional housing, and they're placing people in neighborhoods that are going to. It's the path to least resistance. You're not going to get the resistance if you put them in Cornhill. So interesting stuff. We'll talk a little more on this coming up here. Got a break though.